Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. We honor creators, and we have today with us a new set of creators, Nick and Shansa. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Shansa, but yeah.
Shansa. Okay. Welcome to the show. Your channel is called Exmo Possibilities?
Yes.
Gee, I wonder what that could be.
I know, right?
Well, we're going to find out today. And thanks, Randy, for co-hosting.
Of course.
And so we just found out that Randy grew up in the area that Nick and Shansa are living in right now.
Yes.
So, and we might talk more about that as well later. All right. So
we have friends in common.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we do, because we've made a lot of really cool friends in the area.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so we'll do this, and then we'll let you guys, you can pick who wants to tell their story, their growing up story first, and then we'll switch over to the other one. Like, take us up to like maybe high school or deciding on what to do after high school.
For sure. I'll start out. My story is less exciting than Shansa's. So I come from a family of 7 kids and grew up in Idaho, southeast Idaho, and just born and raised there. Spent my entire childhood there. So right the Mormon belt line as you go up from Utah up to all the way up to Idaho Falls and Rick's, or I guess BYU Idaho now.
So you might have known Napoleon Dynamite when you were young.
I didn't know him personally, but my dad went to the same school that took place at. So same high school. So
yeah.
Did he vote for Pedro?
Yes. So growing up, it was a pretty traditional Mormon experience. Our ward was pretty small, not small in size, but small in geographic area. So a decent size. Remember, we weren't terribly well off, but we weren't poor, and so we definitely we had enough to have 7 kids. And growing up, I spent a lot of time just out with my friends. We would walk to church most Sundays with friends and walk back. The church was only about probably 3 or 4 blocks away, and I remember growing up, we would have my parents tried to do hey, let's dress up in our Sunday clothes to watch conference, and we did that once, and then we never did it again. And then conference became puzzles and just listening in. But we did listen to
family home evening was scattered.
Family home evening was pretty scattered. It was we would be really solid on it for a few weeks, and then we kind of fall off as lives got busy, and we kind of come back to it. And so my dad is a very religious person. My mom not as religious growing up. My younger brother played a lot of baseball in high school and before high school, and so if there are ever games on Sunday, a lot of traveling, she was very keen to be you just go watch baseball games rather than go to church. And it wasn't until after he graduated and moved out of the house that she got really big into church. And now my parents are both very much into church. And then I had a great friend group. All my friends were LDS as well. I had a few non-LDS friends that we would invite to church to come with us.
Projects.
And definitely. And that's kind of the perspective that I thought of them as, is he's my friend and he's not a member, and I'm told to make sure that I'm bringing him to church and get him into church. And they would come and they would be oh yeah, we know what this is about. Everyone in the town is pretty much there. It's a very predominant LDS community. So
and you were in the scouting program and young men's and stuff. And what was being a deacon, teacher, and priest like for you?
So I was always the president of the deacons and priest group.
A born leader.
Oh, more out of my friends were a little bit more wild than I was, and I was a little bit more steady state.
Sort of the default choice.
Yeah, sort of the default choice. And I remember standing up as a deacon or a teacher and being all right, we got to plan our activities for Mutual for the next month, and we can only have basketball once. So what are we going to do? So I did the scouting program. I didn't get an Eagle Scout. I kind of lost interest as I got into high school. and found other activities that were more important to me. And
Girls.
scouting just wasn't that important to me at the time.
Girls, he said.
Yeah, definitely girls.
Did you do any play any instruments or anything in school?
I didn't play any instruments. I was in choir and I played some tennis. I didn't play any big sports or anything like that. I'm pretty short, so I didn't really qualify for basketball. Plus, I'm not very good. So,
Right. And so Shansa's story now, I guess.
yeah.
So I grew up in a very different home. I also grew up in southeastern Idaho, but it was like closer to like where Lava Hot Springs is, the really small towns. So my parents actually were one of the first people to build a grain grinder that was hand crank so that you could take it up to the mountains and survive, because they were preppers. And so they called it a Sunshine Nugget is what it was called. So my whole life as a child grew up, was revolved around
Jesus
this
is coming.
fall. Yes, Jesus is coming this fall. Everything's going to end. We're going to go up to the mountains. We're going to leave everybody you know and care about. They had a small armory in their house. I'm not even kidding. Like, there was a room dedicated to just tons of bullets and bullet powder. And my dad had just tons of guns because he thought that we were going to need to like fend, everyone off because they're going to want our food storage. I even had an experience one time where I showed a friend our food storage one time, being like, oh, let's go grab something to eat. And my parents took me aside after that and they were like, your friends now know what we have. And I was like, well, why does that matter?
They're going to come get us.
They're going to come get us. When everything ends, they're going to know where to go. And they're like, and we will shoot them. That was a very messed up way to grow up. And I remember a lot of times just being like so defiant because I didn't want that life. I didn't want to feel like I had to leave everybody I cared about and go up to the mountains one day. And I also saw it was always this fall, something's going to happen. And it never did. And so I kind of, as I was growing up, I obviously got into the Young Women's program and all that. And I was very defiant. They wanted you to do all of these service projects to get your medallion. I don't remember what it's called.
Just the Young Women's Medallion.
Yeah. And I refused to do it. And everybody would be like, why won't you do it? And I was like, because I'm not doing service to get a reward, right? Like, isn't that absolutely opposite of what we were taught? Like, we should just be doing service because that's the right thing to do.
Good point.
Yeah. And so it just really always kind of irked me the wrong way. And I remember thinking even as a kid that the church reminded me a lot of a pyramid scheme. My parents were always in multiple levels. And so I remember being like, wait, isn't the church technically the same thing? Like, you got the prophet on the top, and then you got his little people. And I even remember
multi-level Mormonism.
Yes.
Yeah, you're supposed to go out and get other people to join in. Yeah.
Exactly. And tell them your testimony.
Now, see, if they let us get part of their tithing, I would have done a lot more recruiting.
Yeah, you got to have that downline.
Yeah.
Right.
And I remember even one time listening to like the Adam and Eve story and the plan of I'm forgetting words, but
salvation.
The plan of salvation, but also like our premortal life, right? And how
the pre-existence, yeah.
The pre-existence, yes. And how Satan was like, you have to do it my way. And I was like, but isn't that what the church is doing? You're telling me that I have to do it your way to get back to heaven. So by the time I was 18, I was jaded enough to be like, I don't want to keep doing this, and started dating a lot of non-members, even though my family wasn't super happy about that. And then as soon as I graduated, I was actually going to come down to Arizona to go to school, and went and got a job at a call center. And that's actually where I met Nick.
Yeah.
Wow. What was the company that was a call center?
It's called Convergys. It was
a service. It's an outsourced customer service provider for DirecTV
at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's no longer that. So.
I think they're doing insurance now.
Yeah, something like that.
So you'd answer the phone and then you'd say, do you have the unit plugged in?
Right.
Yep.
There were many times people would be like, there's nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean that there's nothing? There's just nothing.
So how did you know to go down there to get a job?
Well, so it was just something that was paying better in Idaho than everything else was. And so I went and applied and got the job the same day. And within a month, I think I met Nick, and he was working in the management as a quality director, making sure everybody was doing their jobs right. And
using the correct lines.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And we met that way on my new hire training. So
Yeah. And so, Nick, how did you get down there?
So my story is a little bit different. I served a mission in Japan and loved it. All 3 of the boys in my family served missions in Japan, so we all speak Japanese together.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was a great mission. I served in South Japan, so Okinawa area. And I only served in 4 different areas, but my last area, I was the assistant to the president in the office and spent my last 6 months in the mission office and really respected my mission president. Just a really I still think he's a really amazing guy. And he was a consultant for Bain for many years prior to being a mission president.
Just like Mitt Romney.
Yeah, he worked directly with Mitt Romney quite a bit. And now he was an area authority for a while recently, but just I really respected him. We got along great together. And as I was leaving my mission, he you kind of have the leave. For a lot of missionaries will remember this, the exit discussion with the mission president. And some mission president, I think it varies what type of direction the mission president goes, but my mission president was like, you go home, you get married, you have kids. That's the plan.
Not even college?
Well, start college, but
okay.
But your priority is to go home, get married, and have kids. That's God's plan.
And that's because they didn't want you going home and getting interested in girls and having premarital sex. If you got married right away, you couldn't have premarital sex. It would be okay because you'd be married. And,
Exactly.
I heard the same exact thing when I left my mission in Madrid, Spain. Go home, get married, have kids, blah, blah, blah. Forget about your aspirations, your goals, your career goals. Go home and get married first. And I did. I'm grateful for the kiddos that I have now.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm no longer married to. We didn't have a chance to get to know each other.
Right.
So I'm blessed to have the children I have from that marriage, but as far as the relationship goes, that just didn't last that long.
And back to Japanese for a second. I know konnichiwa.
Oh, there you go.
What does that mean exactly?
That's good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Okay.
Yeah.
And I know like jujitsu and Toshiba.
There you go.
Teriyaki.
You're halfway there, Gene.
Sukiyaki.
That's right.
Onegaishimasu sukiyaki. I don't know what that means, but my brother-in-law taught it to me because he went to Japan.
Yeah.
And so you come home from your mission and
I come home from my mission and I meet a girl that's in my parents' ward and not Shansa. We start dating. We dated for a while and geez, I was just like, all right, I got my plan in place. So we got married very, very quickly.
Okay.
And we were married.
So the answer from God was she's the one.
The answer from God was, well, I don't know what the answer from God was because, So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. We were married for 2 years and we were just not compatible at all. She wanted me to be exactly like her father. She wanted to have somebody that just would kind of take care of her and make lots of money and support her and let her just kind of do her thing. And she wanted to spend lots of time with her family. And we just, in the end, we just didn't get along and it ended up in a divorce. So
how long were you married?
2 years. So
almost like a mission.
Yes, almost like a mission.
Common story.
Different mission.
So after we got divorced, I lived with my parents for about a half a year, and then I moved out on my own, got an apartment on my own, and was going to school. And I kind of decided that I was frustrated. I had felt like I had stuck to the plan and did everything I was supposed to, and I was unhappy. I felt like, oh man, I'm divorced. No one's going to want to, no young person's going to want to date a divorcee. And
when your ex-wife tried to ruin your whole
Yeah,
life.
yeah, the divorce ended poorly, and very messy. But I decided I made some friends at the call center where I was working just as a college job, and they like to go out and drink and hang out and have some fun, and I joined in on that. And I was still actively going to church. I was still paying my tithing, and everything. And that was more out of like social and family pressures, to still go to church. But we would go out on the weekends and we would hit up a bar and we'd dance and we'd drink and have fun, or else we'd go to a friend's house and we'd, try different beers or try different drinks and enjoy that.
Eat, drink, and be merry for
Yeah,
tomorrow's
exactly.
Sunday.
It was great. And then I met Shansa.
So we met, and he's actually 8 years older than I am. And I was a little worried about that, especially where I'd known that he had gotten divorced. I was hoping he didn't have kids. I was 18 when we met, so was not ready to be a stepmom. Thankfully, he didn't have any kids with his ex-wife. And I actually asked him out. So
Yes.
Good move. Good move,
Yeah.
Shansa.
Right?
She does all the hard work in the relationship.
So we dated for about 9 months, and then finally he kept saying, I'm never going to get married again. Like, I'm never doing that again. And I was like, am I wasting my time? Like, I was supposed to be in Arizona, but I really liked him. And so finally one day I was like, so you want to go ring shopping on Friday? So I always tell everybody I actually proposed to. He technically proposed, but I did all the hard work. He did make me wait for the ring for what? How long was it? Like 2 months?
Like 2 months, yeah.
Yeah. I already had my dress and everything like bought, and I was like, "Are you ever gonna propose?" So
Were you
I'm
still
one of-
thinking potential temple marriage at the time?
No, we were not doing what we were supposed to be doing for a temple marriage. Our parents didn't know that, and so when he finally did propose, my mom kept being like, "What temple are you getting married in? What temple are you getting married in?" And so finally, I had to sit her down and be like, "We're not getting married in the temple. We're not worthy." And she got really mad and was like, "You have to call every one of your family members and tell them why you're not getting married in the temple and what a disappointment you are." And so we did, and his family was mad at us and my family was mad, so we paid for our own wedding and decorated it ourselves. Another weird thing about me is my parents decorated weddings for most of my childhood, and so I knew what to do, and we had all the stuff. And so anyway, we were married, and then we did get sealed a year later, even though I think both of us weren't really wanting to do that, but family pressure, we felt like we had to.
I will say that like we had a fantastic, like our first area that we lived in together, we moved into a different apartment together, and the bishop that we had in the ward was a fantastic guy.
He was.
Just like his daughter was a friend of mine from high school. He kind of just took us under his wing, and I mean, he did a great job. He was very supportive of us. He was great. I mean, I felt like he helped us a lot, and we went to the temple together and got.
He's very non-judgmental, and I think that that's unusual for a bishop, especially when you're telling him, "Hey, like we got married a year ago," and he was just excited to help us to take that next step. And so I think it made it a little easier to not feel like we were being judged.
Yeah.
Were you still in Idaho at this point?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep.
And Shansa, what did you think when you went through the temple?
I remember just kind of being like, wait, this is it? Like, it's just Adam and Eve, and and I did feel like the whole initiation thing was super creepy and weird. But I kept telling myself, oh, it's fine. It's fine. Like, this totally makes sense. I mean, obviously it didn't, but trying to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But we didn't go again after we got sealed for years because I thought it was so weird. And we got sealed, but we were definitely on the fence I can't say. I'd say the beginning first 3 years of our marriage, we were those people that like showed up once in a while to church, definitely didn't do a calling. We'd say yes because you're not supposed to say no.
They put us in the primary. We'd call the primary president Saturday night and be like, "Hey, we're not going to make it."
We were that couple. Everybody hated us. And it wasn't until we moved to Seattle for next job that we finally were like, we're going to be hardcore. We're going to do what we're supposed to do. Like we had our kids, they were getting older. We had one getting ready to be baptized. And so we were like, we really should be the people we're supposed to be, right? Like more out of guilt, I think, than anything.
You have
But
to
I think
shape
so.
up and set the example for your children now.
yes.
Exactly. It was like, all right, we played, we had some fun. We would have nights where we would drink together and things like that. If I went out on business trips, I traveled quite a bit for work when I worked for Amazon, and I would enjoy drinks while I was out. Wasn't that big a deal to me. We were still paying our tithing and for the most part doing the right thing. But when we were in Seattle, we said, hey, let's settle down, read our scriptures every day, really focus on church, fulfill our callings like the best we can. And
to make sure you can be with your families forever, right?
Yes.
100%. I think that we both were feeling like, okay, like we need to make some decisions, and this is the most prevalent thing that we know, so this is the right decision to make.
That's what the church teaches us, and that's their niche.
Right.
If don't drink a cup of coffee and pay your tithing and be worthy to be in the club, or you can't be with your family forever.
Right.
Exactly. But Nick's finding out he could have fun and go to church every now and then.
Exactly.
And make it look like he's living the dream.
Right.
And no lightning bolts, right? God
we
wasn't
still have
punishing
that light
you.
in our eyes.
Yeah.
So, and in between all of this, my parents are still preppers. They're still calling all the time. My mom actually started following Chad Daybell very strongly and was telling me that he was a prophet. Julie Rowe was a prophetess and kept sending me all of this stuff. And I remember being very concerned and hoping that if I was more devout in my, my gospel, that I could show my mom that what she was doing was not what the Lord wanted, because it wasn't like the mainstream church, right? It was a weird break off.
Extra Mormon isn't what God wants. He wants mainstream Mormons.
Yeah.
Exactly. He wants the run of the mill straight line.
But mainstream seems safe compared to what Chad Daybell and Julie Rowe were teaching, right? And so
she probably was reading Visions of Glory, right?
She was hard into Visions of Glory. She was always talking about it, quoting it. I mean, she'd probably read that book a dozen times or more.
Wow, like scripture.
Yes. Yeah. She actually didn't read scriptures. She only read things like that. She was an interesting person. I look back at it now and I think she had a lot of mental health issues. But she got very sick while we were in Seattle. And she was also one of those people that didn't ever see doctors. Doctors were evil. They were trying to hurt you. And so she got really sick. And I tried talking her into going to a doctor. She wouldn't go. And I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, my mom's dying. We need to go home. And so we moved back to Idaho. We found this little old lady's house that was not finished downstairs and the basement. And we decided we were going to move back and have a half an acre for our kids to play on and
live close to family and sort of build a stronger relationship with family that we had not seen for years.
And hoped that I could talk my mom into at least seeing a doctor at some point. So we moved back to Idaho and my mom died 2 months later.
Wow.
So that I think was very traumatic for me. I also think that it actually was a starting process for me to start questioning more, because I remember she spent her entire life like, the word of wisdom is going to heal me, and
I have faith that this will go away.
Yes. And my patriarchal blessing says that I'm going to bring in the second coming of Christ, which I know I've heard now that generation had more of that in there, but she really believed she was going to do that. And
you were thinking like Jesus is a dirtbag for not coming back just to say hi to my mom while she was here.
Yes.
And Shansa, I'm sorry for your loss, the loss of your mother.
It was hard for sure. Yeah. And I just remember being so angry, and people would always tell me, it's fine because she's up in heaven doing missionary work. And I remember being like,
place.
Yes. And I'm also like, why doesn't she get a break? Why do they always have to be so busy? Her whole life here was stress and like worry and everything else, and she always felt like she had to be doing missionary work. Why can't she just rest? And then when I got pregnant with my last baby, people would be, I would say things like, I'm mad that my mom's not here to experience my last baby and hold her and spend time with her and get to know her. And people would be like, oh, like members be like, oh, she knows her. She already held her up in heaven. And I'm like, that doesn't fix things. Like, that doesn't make me feel better, right? And so I started questioning, like, why, if she was so devout and she had so much faith, why didn't God save her?
Right.
I think that was the beginning for me of really questioning what I was actually believing.
About what year was that?
She died in 2019. So right
Oh.
before COVID. She actually died, I think, right before Julie Rowe got excommunicated. And I've always said, like, I think it was actually a really good thing that she didn't know about that, because I think it really would have sent her into a tailspin. And then, like, right after that, all of this came out about, like, Chad Daybell and those kids going missing and all that. And so I'm not saying it's a good thing my mom passed. I am saying for her mental health, I think it was good that it didn't come out until after.
Right. It would have been extra torture in her last days.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. For me, I think the first time that we started, like, I had always just been kind of fence sitting, but I think my first big question came when Chance and I were reading our scriptures very, like, very dedicatedly. We'd read in Second Nephi, and I'd be like, why is the Isaiah chapters word for word like copy and paste from the Bible? Like, why? And I really struggled with the idea behind that. I'm just like, if it's supposed to be a better translation, then why is it word for word from the Bible?
And what did you think how Joseph Smith translated?
I didn't think much on it at first.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, you know what? I think that's weird. I brought it up to Shansa on a walk one night, and I said, I'm kind of struggling with the fact that, like, it's pretty much copy and paste, and that really bothers me.
Nick,
And
did you read the CES letter by any chance during this time?
we did not read the CES letter until we were out of the church together.
Okay, gotcha.
Because we were like, we don't want to be persuaded by anything anti-Mormon.
Like,
right?
we really wanted to take that perspective. The other thing that really got me is shortly after that, we were living in Seattle, and the news came out about the whistleblower at Ensign Peak who disclosed the actual amount of funds that the church had been sitting on. And I got really frustrated and angry. There was a time when we were living, when we were newly married, and we had 1 month where we just could not add up the bills to cover. And so we put our tail between our legs and went and talked to the bishop and said, hey, this next month we will be fine. We've got it all planned out. We'll be fine. But this month we are really struggling and we are behind. And we got turned away. I came back really frustrated from that. And then finding out how much money the church is sitting on, I was just like, are you kidding me? And I shared that with a close friend in Seattle. And he was like, yeah, I can see that being frustrating, and he didn't really think anything of it. And then I talked to Shansa about it. And I think that was the first time that both of us were like, okay, something's going on here that doesn't add up. There are things that are happening behind the curtains that we don't agree with. And in Idaho, we would go on walks together every night. We'd walk 2 miles every night together. And just, that was our time to connect and talk. And we would say, I remember having conversations being like, okay, well, maybe the church has gone into apostasy now. Maybe it was true then, and it's gone into apostasy now. And because obviously the church leaders are lying to us are not being honest about certain things. And it's becoming it's really not something that maybe we want to be associated with.
Did you ever in your mind, like, do the math? It's like Jesus started a church in the Middle East and it lasted 70 years tops, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus also started a church in the Americas, and that lasted a little bit short of 200 years.
Yep.
The average is only like 150. Is Joseph Smith better than Jesus?
Right.
And it's been over 150 years. And so maybe the church is in apostasy.
Definitely. Like, and we didn't question a lot of early Mormon history at all when we first started discussing if this is the church that we want to continue attending.
Polygamy always had bothered me. And I'd always kind of felt like women were looked at as cattle in the Mormon church. But I think that I was able to overlook it enough and be like, well, at least we don't have to practice it now, that it wasn't as big of a deal as it probably ended up being later after I found everything out about what had really happened with Joseph. So
Well,
we,
actually, Shansa, we kind of are still practicing polygamy because, the men can get remarried in the temple to multiple wives, but of course the women can't.
right.
And supposedly, when he goes to heaven, he'll be with all these women. So polygamy hasn't gone away.
Right.
But
No,
yeah, but here on the earth, we have
I guess,
to.
guess that makes me a
I,
polygamist.
It's a pause. We're on a pause with polygamy.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if preppers thought this, but I always thought that Jesus, when he couldn't come back until polygamy was restored in the church as well.
Mm,
Yeah, I think a big thing in the prepper community and in the very devout, like hardcore, like Jesus is returning community is the world needs to get wicked enough to get Jesus to come back. And so there's like, we got to prevent the wickedness so Jesus doesn't come back, but we want Jesus to come back.
there was a weird dichotomy.
It's a weird, just like setup there.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would go for long walks and we talk about things that we would start to see, like as we talk through things logically together, we would see things in the existing church structure that were really frustrating for us. We made the decision then to leave the church. And
But we were scared to let family know. Like we were really scared because Nick's family lived like 10 houses away from us at this point. They had found a house right by us and decided to move in. And luckily they were not in our ward, but it was more pressure to have them so close right there, right? It's do we let them know? And Nick's family would be so disappointed. And so we hid it for a long time, actually.
Yeah, the last time we went to church, was actually the day after we baptized my daughter. And
which we didn't want to do, right? Like we knew at that point that we were done, but we were like, but if we don't baptize her, they're going to know. And we knew at that point we were moving to Arizona. And so we were like, if we just do it, then we can get ourselves to Arizona and far enough away from everybody that we can just live how we want to live and it won't matter anymore.
And fresh start.
Yeah.
So we baptized my daughter, went to church the next Sunday, and we didn't even turn in the paperwork to have her like membership, like,
because it was during COVID. It was 2020, and they were doing they weren't doing stake baptisms. And so it was all on us to like get the paperwork in and all that. And so we were like, well, we're not going to hand that in, right? Like we already know we're not going anymore. So it was more of just a show, I guess, for family.
Well, so you did the baptism without turning in the paperwork?
Yep.
That is interesting. That's a very fascinating thing.
And guys, you know what? I have been out of the church for quite some time now. But yesterday was the day I finally put on my Facebook page that I'm no longer a member of no longer an active participant in the church.
Yeah.
Good for you.
And explained why. And it was a long post, but I couldn't live the lie anymore. I like you was kind of try to keep up appearances, especially when I go back to Arizona where my family is, my sister's TBM. And yesterday I finally pulled the plug and let the entire world know that no, I'm not in the church anymore, and kind of bore my testimony of why I'm not and how happy I am now and how liberated I feel. So you guys are a step ahead of me, but yeah, it took me that long.
I don't think it matters how long it takes you, because again, it's a personal decision. It's your personal decision to share when you're ready to disclose what your beliefs are. And I think that's awesome and brave of you to post out on Facebook and say, hey, this is where I'm at.
I was touched by the number of people that told me they loved me. And there was only one guy who, came across as a real butthead saying, oh, well, obviously you fell to temptation and you're trying to justify it and blah, blah, blah. And everyone jumped to my defense. And it was very touching.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me that even my family members and the other members of the church were supportive of me and my decision.
That's great.
And that's a lot of what we want our podcasting and TikTok channel to be about, is the positivity behind and finding community outside of leaving the church. I think so many people are scared to take that step of saying, but this is my community. This is where I have friends. This is what I have.
This is what I know.
So if I leave it, what do I have? Am I sitting in my house watching Netflix all day because I'm too afraid to go out and make friends, or to go drink a beer at a bar, or go dancing one night and things like that? And rather the focus on the deconstruction, we've really tried to focus on the positive aspects of leaving the church and the enjoyment that you can find outside of that.
That's right. I'm still trying to figure out my authentic self, I'll say.
Yeah.
I think that's okay. Like, I think we all go through phases in life where we have different understandings of who we are, and authenticity is something that you discover as you go along the road, and you keep discovering, and you find out more little things about yourself. And I mean, Shansa's been studying, what's it called?
That's the Enneagram personality quizzes. I feel very much like when you are a part of a high demand religion, they very much control, like how you think and what you do and like all of that, right? And you don't really get to understand who you are because it's more of a hive mentality. And so I've tried really hard lately to try to understand who I am and why I do the things that I do, and why and like the healthy and the unhealthy things, so that I can acknowledge those unhealthy traits and try to work on those, to be my authentic self, like you said. Not because I'm doing something because that's how I've always done it, or that's what I was conditioned to do. I want to do it because I actually enjoy that thing, or that is actually my personality versus being told that it is.
That's right. Just because my family wants me to.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. Right. And I've always, like I said before, I've always kind of been that person that would cross that line. I'd push those buttons, I hated wearing those garments, and anytime I felt like I could get away with it, I was making sure I wasn't wearing those things.
Yeah. And you guys did your own like CES letter without crowdsourcing, you just through walks.
Yes.
If you were to write a book, it could be Our Walk Through Mormonism or something like that.
I love that.
So
we didn't know any of that stuff. So we ended up moving to Arizona and just being like, well, we're just done. Like, we don't want anything to do with it.
When the neighbors came to ask us who we were, they'd ask us if we were Mormon, and we'd say, nope.
We live in a very Mormon populated neighborhood. So the first thing that they'd ask is, are you Mormon? And we were like, nope. I even got a rug on the front porch that says, if you forgot the wine, go home. Just being like, we're not Mormon.
Just to prove it, right?
Yeah.
Put the sign out there for sure.
Yes.
But we really got into Mormon Stories podcast once we moved down to Arizona, and loved the LDS discussions portion that Mike does. And boy, that unleashed the floodgates.
That made all the guilt go away, right? Because I think that we kept being like, well, but are we doing the right thing? And are our kids
crazy?
Yes. It was very freeing to listen to those and really understand that the church was never true, that it was all a lie that some guy started with a hat and a rock, which I didn't understand or know until I started listening to those. And just how much of our history was hidden from us. And it really helped us to be like, oh, like a huge weight was lifted off of us after finding all of that out, right? Like we'd already left, but it was like knowing that we were correct that really, I think, helped us a ton to move past it.
Yeah.
And it's a virtual community.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, and not just move past it, be able to say like, okay, like this is helping our deconstruction. And and this is really helping us say like, hey, I could go out and I can enjoy a beer at a bar or out to dinner with my wife and not feel 1 ounce of guilt over enjoying that. And it's been fantastic. Like we've felt so much more free. I remember like one thing that I did like right away was go get my ears pierced. And it was hilarious. I know, I'm such a heathen.
You're a heathen.
No tattoos yet, but I went back to visit family, and my mom came up to me and she grabbed my face and she turned it this way, and then she turned it this way, and she didn't say a word. She just like walked off.
She could have said, "Are you bisexual?"
I know, right? Which I think it's funny because when I was younger, she's like, "You should pierce your ears."
Wow. That's right, because she was a little bit hip in a way for being a Mormon.
She was. She definitely had her own streak of inactivity. which I mean, I don't judge her for that. She's her own person. So
yeah. And so when did you decide to do a podcast?
So I joined all of these like local and like outside of local groups for ex-Mormons, and I saw a huge amount of people being like, I don't know where to start when it comes to coffee. I don't know where to start when it comes to like drinking alcohol. Like, I want to get into wine, but like I don't like the wine that I'm trying. How do I start? And I felt those exact same things when we were starting, because you have to understand, like, while we were doing these things while still being active, there was all that guilt there. And so it was like, you're sneaking it and you're like making sure that nobody's seeing you at the grocery store. And all of a sudden now this world's open to us of being able to just not have any fear or regrets or, anything that way. And so we started really exploring things, right? And I noticed that wine was disgusting at first. And so I started with like the Stella wines, trying to get into like the sweeter ones. And then I noticed, okay, now that I've done that, now I can go to this little bit more like alcohol flavored one. And like I've been able to level up. But I remember even just going to a coffee shop and looking at the board being like, I have no idea what to order. Like, what is even going to be good?
It's almost like you felt called by the God of Exmo Possibilities to do a podcast.
Right. So I just remember sitting there a lot being like, you know what? All these people need help. And I've experienced a lot of these things. And we also found a really amazing group of ex-Mormons in the Arizona Valley that we're in. And
oh yeah, what's the name of the group?
Eastmark Exmos.
Oh yeah, Eastmark Exmos. So like the Mesa, Gilbert, Queen Creek, Santan Valley area. Okay. And so we've made a lot of really cool friends, and they've helped us to really explore, like even going to bars and ordering from an actual bar. Cause like that, like walking up and knowing what to tell the bartender when there's no menu in front of you is a big deal.
That's right. Yeah. Like all I would know to do is like an alcoholic Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be able to help people with that and have them help, like, to feel more comfortable to know what to order and all that. And so one day I was sitting there and I was like, so what if we started a podcast? I know we're not podcast people. Like, I don't love being in front of the camera. But I want to help people. I want to make them feel more comfortable in believing the ex-Mormon, not ex-Mormon, but believing the Mormon community and finding that happiness outside of it and taking their agency back. And that's kind of how Exmo Possibilities began. The sad thing is we got started and everything was going great. And then I ended up having some heart problems and felt like I needed to take a break for a little while because it was pretty serious and needed to get healthy again before I could continue. But we're back and we're starting to finally.
Yeah, we took a 6-month break and now we're ready to get back and get rolling. I've got plenty of beers that I'm ready to review. So
that's right. I need to learn more about beers.
You're to be commended to put your podcasts out there, because who knows how many people you're helping by doing that.
And even if we get a few people that view and have fun with us, I mean, that's great. We're not doing this for a monetary gain. We really just want to have fun with it and have it be a good outlet for us to share what we've learned. Like, for example, like I've always enjoyed beer. I've enjoyed beer since my college days. And I'm kind of known in our friend group as the guy to go to when you want to know which beers to get and how things taste and things like that. So I'm like, I'll do beer reviews as part of our podcast. And
we've tried hemp drinks too, to like see like compared to a gummy, like THC wise, like which one's better. And like, so there's lots of things that we're wanting to help people to explore in a safe environment, and they can choose from there, what they want to do based off of our reviews.
Is there a generic starter beer for people, or do you ask like what types of flavors do you like, or what types of things don't you like?
It's
some
definitely,
people say I don't like bitter or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely flavor based. I think like I have friends who can jump right into darker beers, and I have friends who like, hey, you know what? I need a Michelob Ultra, just something light, kind of tastes like a soda with a beer flavor to it. So
wheat and hop flavored soda.
Yep, wheat and hop flavored soda, which is great for people. Like, if that's what you like, that's what you like. No judgment.
Right. I think for me, even with beer, I thought it was disgusting, right? And it's taken me years, but just taking sips of things of his and like kind of comparing. So I had one time that I was like, This tastes like straight up like you're licking a field with cows in it right now. Like, it was bad. But then I love an amber. Like I'll try his ambers, and they're very rich and they've got a lot more flavor to them, and they're almost a little sweeter. And so it's been kind of fun, even just going to Total Wine and having Nick buy a single can and trying it and seeing, what the taste is like and if we like it or don't like it. And I think that's what I would encourage people to do, is just try it. You might think it's gross at first, but the more you do it, the more you're going to start enjoying it.
My field of expertise is weed. Living here in Spokane, Washington, I was, kind of a pothead for a while. I don't smoke it now just for my own health. It was starting to kind of muddle up my brain, and it wasn't good on my lungs. But, for years, I learned, I was like you, walking into these weed shops, like, I don't even know what I don't know.
Know where to start.
But it didn't take me long to become a pretty knowledgeable expert on it. So if you ever have any weed questions, I'm here for you.
That's great.
Maybe you can invite Randy on to do a weed review.
Yes,
I think so. That we'd love that.
Well,
so we're getting into Delta 9 drinks lately, and they're a lot of fun. I really enjoy those.
Have you tried those, Randy?
Say again?
Delta 9 drinks.
Oh, I've had several of the drinks. I'm a keto guy, so I always look the sugar-free drinks that are offered at our local shop here.
Nice.
But I do love the drinks because, and I'll still, if anyone offers me a gummy, heck yeah, I got so tolerant that I had to take a break, to become less tolerant so I could enjoy the high of the experience.
Definitely.
And, I stopped for 2 weeks and made it 3 and 4. And then I said, yeah, screw it. I don't need it on a regular basis. But I have nothing against doing some gummies. And I don't think one gummy would do me, but probably 5 gummies would get me to where I need to be now that I've taken this big break. But I love the drinks because it's like one and done, and it works quickly.
Yeah.
I would drink 100 milligrams at a time. So
wow.
yeah. I was a tolerant guy.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think we get to 20 and we're probably like cooked.
Yeah.
But I think the other aspect that we're really focused on is also the social aspect of being ex-Mormons, is how to find community. I've got a great group of friends, and we do a poker night every other Wednesday night, or lately as often as we can. We get together, we play poker and have some drinks together. One guy cooks up some meats. I take down some chicken wings, and we have a fun night playing poker together. Or like Shansa's group has gotten together and done girls nights out, or just like girls nights in where they watch a movie. And there is so much community that is out there that doesn't have to be centered around alcohol, weed or anything like that, but you can still enjoy finding community. And that's so important because so many people are afraid to leave that social circle of the church that they've had to find a lot of their lives, and venturing out and meeting people who are like them, or just willing to try new things.
Right. Well, and there's so much authenticity outside of the church, whether it's ex-Mormons or it's people who have never been Mormon. There are so many good people out there, and finding your group it can be hard and it can be daunting, but if you do it, like, you genuinely are so much happier. And like, I know so many people who stay in the church because of the social aspect of it. And I just want to say, like, it's not genuine. Every relationship that I had inside the church, as soon as they found out I left, they all told me goodbye, we're not friends anymore. And that was heart crushing. But at the same time, like, the people that I've been able to meet outside of it have been so much more soul leading, I guess. Yeah.
Accepting. That's my community now is the Exmo community. And I've never felt so loved and accepted in my life. I grew up in the church and held almost every position, that can be held, and went on a mission. But I've never felt loved more than I have in the Exmo community, because we all understand and we don't judge. And, Gene, yeah. Gene has kind of been the one to introduce me to, listen, I call him the connections whisperer, because there's all of these famous podcasters that and watch. Gene knows them and has probably interviewed them, and vice versa.
Or irritated them.
Oh, he's a great contact to have. And he kind of introduced me to the community. And I've never been so happy and accepted. So I totally understand what you're saying. There's a life outside of the church. There's a community out there. And there are people who want to enjoy their lives rather than feel guilty every minute of the day because they're not living up to the standards that they feel like they have to.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a lot. I mean, we have friends who are introverts and extroverts, and it's a lot for some people to take that step out their door and say, I'm going to do something different tonight. I'm not just going to stay and watch a movie. I'm going to step out. I'm going to go, go to a brew pub, go to a dance, go to a club,
I don't care how old you are. You have to experience a club. Nobody cares when you're there, right? They're just excited to have somebody there dancing, and it is so much fun and just something you need to experience. I think, so my dad passed away recently. So I've had both parents pass away, and neither one of them ever lived their lives. They were preparing for the end, and that was it. And even though he knew he was dying of a disease that was killing him, he couldn't let go of his end of the world stuff, and he didn't live. And I think that's something that I am really pushing now in our channel is take back your agency, take back your life, because my parents both died not living that life, and they don't get a second chance. And I think it's really important that we experience the life that we have and make it the best life we can.
Absolutely.
That's right. I know a couple of years ago there was a Thrive event in either Gilbert or Phoenix. Did you guys go to that?
No, we were not able to go that. I think we were out of town.
But you heard about it. And so there's somebody's trying to get together a summertime Thrive in the Phoenix area again. And so her name is Ruth Butler. I don't know if you've heard of her, but I'll send you her Facebook contact information, and maybe you can help if you want to, or send other people, their way.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell our audience, here is the website for the YouTube channel for Exmo Possibilities. I am already subscribed, but I'll have a link in the description for people to go and visit your channel. And let's see.
We're also on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We probably are more active on TikTok than any of them. So if you're wanting to stay current with us, probably TikTok.
Yeah, it's usually the easiest. But we're
send
always
me a couple of the links in Facebook, and I'll include them in the description of our show's video.
And guys, I come to Arizona frequently, so we're going to have to
beer hop.
Yes. Well, we can beer hop or Bahama Bucks or
Bahama Bucks. Let's do it.
I love me some Bahama Bucks. I wish we had it here in Washington. But I
next
also
time you're down, Randy.
I'm a coffee freak too, so
we have a lot of good coffee shops.
Yes.
How do you feel about cigars? Are you a cigar guy?
My gosh, I sat smoking a cigar with my cigar buddy last night.
Oh, we're gonna be good friends.
Comes over, and if it's out of the football season, then we watch paranormal stuff on TV. And I've got a man cave for the winter time, and now that it's spring, it's outside. But I love me a good fat bottom Betty. I love cigars.
We've just started exploring cigars and want to do a podcast about that one as well. So it'd be fun to have you come and join us.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I can.
Yeah, the name of your appearance, Randy, could be Up in Smoke with Randy Watts. And you can talk about weed and cigars.
Forget Cheech and Chong. Randy Watts is here.
There we go. I love it. Yeah, next time you're down, we'll have you over. We can go out on the patio and enjoy a cigar together.
I'm all about that. I'd love that. We'll make that a date right now.
I love it. It's a great idea.
Love that's on the wall behind you guys. It
Yes.
is big and it's prominent, and it's, to me, I think that you guys are doing this out of love for people, right?
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
helping people be their authentic selves is a good, loving thing to do, and I appreciate your efforts. And I'm hoping that we get a few more subscribers for you, a few more views. People can go to your website and share and see if anything helps them or their friends, and then also visit the TikTok and other links that I'll have down
I'll
below.
have Shansa send over the links for all of our stuff, all of our socials.
And I'm a little bit envious, to be honest, of your beautiful background and your setting right there. That's one of the best looking settings I think we've had.
See, it's nice right here, but the rest of the room is filthy.
Yeah.
Well, it looks really good.
Good, thank you.
That's right.
Well, we sure appreciate you guys giving us the chance to talk about what we're wanting to do with this channel, and it's exciting to get it going again.
That's right. We're glad to do what we can to help podcasters at any stage of their podcast. And so if anybody out there is thinking about doing a podcast or knows somebody that could use some more publicity, feel free to tell them or to invite themselves over to our show. I'll at the bottom in our description, I also have, I think, email account that you can contact me on. So thanks everyone for watching. Share, like, and subscribe. Have a great rest of 2025, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.